So on Monday night, which was August 30th, 2021, 7 vehicles plunged into a 20-foot deep hole in Mississippi where a highway had collapsed after torrential rains. And that resulted in 2 people dying immediately. So in another case, crews were searching for a 71-year-old man who was attacked by an alligator that tore off his arm as he was walking through Hurricane Ida's floodwaters. So yes, bad things can always get worse. Now, residents of the Gulf Coast were given warning at least several days in advance of serious impending weather with potential hurricane force winds. These hurricanes don't usually just appear out of nowhere. They can see them coming, they can see their approximate trajectory and get a pretty good estimation of what magnitude it's going to be and what its path is going to be. Now, that usually does change, but it usually doesn't just come out of nowhere where you're having weather like this and then bam, hurricane, like an earthquake would. So the point is, when you have the opportunity to get warned, you have the opportunity to prepare. Now at that point, it's really too late to start your preparations, but you do have the opportunity to gather what you do have, secure your home quickly, and get the heck out of there. And why do you want to do that? Well, because it's foreseeable that when things get worse, as they did here, people panic. And the roads, if they're even still usable and they haven't become so flooded that you have a 7-vehicle, not even a pileup, plunge down, whatever you would call that, where you fall into a sinkhole that's 20 feet deep. When the roads are still passable, that is the time to escape, because eventually they're not going to be passable through the natural conditions. They're going to be flooded. Most cars are going to get stranded in place, so you're not even going to be able to navigate if it's a narrow 2-lane road and cars are stranded both directions or in front of you, blocking your exit. That is the time to heed the warning, get your things and get out of there. Get to higher ground, so to speak. Just get to a place. If you know that the course of the hurricane is heading northeast, you might want to go southwest if you can. Now, if you're already south, figure it out. But the point is, go to the least likely trajectory for this hurricane. Now, one thing that I recommend is having a key swap with 3 to 5 households that you sincerely know and trust. You give them keys to your house, they give you keys to their house. So when you do have to evacuate, and maybe they're gone, they're on vacation somewhere, you can use their house as a safe haven, because as I am going to tell you in a moment, many of the hotels were completely booked in all the safe areas. They sold out immediately. Now, if you can have a Sprinter van, that would be ideal. A Sprinter van, a motorhome in general, but something that is rugged, something like this. As a Sprinter van, pretty close to perfect, because it's already ready to go. You have your food, you have your water, it has solar, it has the ability to generate electricity for your lights, your medication to keep it cold in the fridge. You have ability to have shelter, and a Sprinter van, especially a 4-wheel drive one, can get over many things that cars cannot. So any motorhome would be also pretty nice to have. A trailer would be tough, but still better than nothing. But the point is, having some kind of recreational vehicle already gives you a fighting chance, because you have, in most cases, your food, your water, your shelter, your energy, and a place to sleep already ready to go. So just 5 things right off the bat you don't have to worry about. But with a key swap, you have the keys to someone else's house, they have the keys to yours, you keep that in one of your emergency bags, so it's one less thing that you have to panic and find or remember or realize that you forgot after it's too late. Have a go bag, have it ready, and then get out while you can. Get as far away as you can. Yes, it's going to be tough to leave things behind, but this will be a lot less tough when you can have your whole family intact while the communication abilities are still up, because those went down too, as I'll tell you in a minute, in states like Louisiana, especially New Orleans. So you have your family intact, you have your pets, you have a few priceless family keepsakes that you would definitely like to carry with you. Nothing major, but something that would be impossible to replace. Everything else, you have insurance for that. All the personal electronics, probably don't need them, leave them at home, with the exception of one of these if you have it. Satellite communicator, might seem overkill, but when the power's down, when the cell towers are down, this is a way that you can communicate with other people. There's also ham radio, but if you can do it, get one of these for your family members, at least one for the parents and one for the kids. So if you do get separated, or if the power goes out, the cell towers go out, your kids are away from home, and they're young kids, high school age or younger, how are you going to reach them if all forms of communication are down? That's an easy option. Also, when you go and get out to the forest, you do want the ability to have some basic communication with other people in safe parts of the country to let them know that you're safe. Otherwise, they are panicking and wondering if you are even alive. Something like this has an SOS button, satellite-based. They can reach you as long as you have clear line of sight anywhere in the country. It doesn't require cell signal. Another option is to have a rendezvous point. So you rehearse this with your kids. So when there's no cell signal, there's no ability to reach them, they're out with their friends, maybe they're off on a trip. What do you do if you can't reach them and you need to evacuate? Do you just leave a sign at the house, good luck? No, you would have an orderly list. Okay, so here is where we would meet first. We would wait here until this time of day. After then, we go to the next location. Best option is to evacuate as a family while you have your communications up, telling them, get here now, we're leaving now. You have some kind of bug out bag, ideally for each member of your family, that you can just toss in the car and go. That'll have the ability to have water at the ready, as well as water filtration as a life straw. You have some food for your dog, I'm sure you have pets, some basic first aid, there's a tourniquet, I also have a quick clot, and you want to rehearse this. You want to not test yourself when it's an emergency, because that is the worst time to figure out if your plans are actually sound or not. So loss of mobility was a huge one. People didn't evacuate when they had the chance to, and then they couldn't when they wanted to. Now, I know a lot of us don't take warnings very seriously, so a lot of these residents had been warned in years past about other hurricanes that ended up being much smaller than were forecast, and they regretted leaving. Some of them never even left, and they were always fine. The problem with that is eventually you're gonna get the gamble wrong. So similar to how car alarms are just nothing more than useless noisemakers, look around the next time you hear a car alarm. Is everybody panicked to stop the thief? Are they calling 911? No, they're ignoring it because they know more often than not, probably over 90% of the time, it's a false alarm. It's just going to go off in a few seconds. Pay no attention to it. And that's unfortunately the effect that these repeated warnings to evacuate in years past have had. When they go unheeded, and then the people who stayed in place turned out to be right, they start to become desensitized to these warnings. So you do have to take them seriously. That's why I would. What do you have to lose if you get it wrong? So get out while you can, while the roads are open, while you have your communication. You'll get to a place where you're safer. You'll ideally be able to go to one of your friend or family members' homes that you've done the key swap with. And better yet, the communication abilities will still be up. The electricity will be up. The cell towers will be up. The internet will be up. You'll be able to communicate with your extended family members and let them know that you're safe. It's a huge drain on the emotions of your family and people who love you when they know you are in the impact zone and they can't hear from you. They're just going to assume the worst. Help them avoid the catastrophic effects it will have on their psyche while days or even weeks go by where there's no contact with you and they just assume the worst has happened. How would you feel if you couldn't contact your children for days? You do want to use the vehicle that is the most rugged, that has also a good amount of space. If you have the option between a truck and a car, gonna have to make that calculation real quick. Maybe the truck has less seats, but it has higher ground clearance, maybe it has four-wheel drive. That will give you more options to evacuate, because if it really is a true emergency and all the highways are jammed and you're just basically sitting ducks like a lot of these people were who decided to evacuate too late, you should become familiar with the alternate egress areas, even if that's off-road, before the road gets too soaked, or if it's a fire condition. You don't want to be stuck in a miles-long congestion of everybody trying to evacuate as the fire is approaching you from the rear. Find an alternate route, drive through someone's yard, drive through someone's fence. That's why you want, ideally, a rugged off-road vehicle, ideally with some kind of brush guard, because it could mean the difference between you evacuating yourself and your family safely and you becoming just a roasted pack of humans in your car as you sit idle while the fire engulfs you. Sorry, there's no, well, maybe there is a kinder, gentle way to describe it, but I hope that gets the point across. Next, I'm going to talk about the problems with the lack of fuel for vehicles and generators that a lot of people were experiencing in New Orleans and the surrounding states.